So today I'm going to start off with the hair and the eyebrows, and I'm going to start with eyebrows. That falls in line with the hair and stuff like that. We can keep them relatively simple. The idea of just shapes is good. And one of the things you want to do is you don't want to, if these are your eyes, you don't want to put your eyebrows way up high. Everything is a stylistic choice, and you could do that, but the higher you put them up, the more you make it seem like this person's really like surprised or excited. And that's, obviously a choice that you could make with your drawings, but generally we want to be able to kind of just fit them a little bit above the eye with the idea that maybe you could fit another eye space above it. Now, how to draw them? I would start off with just a basic shape that sort of echoes what's going on with the top part of the lid. And then really, you can just double up the front part and make them a little thinner. You can always sculpt them and try a couple different ways. Those are totally up to you on how you want to sort of make them. And again, you can sit there, you don't have to color them in, but that generally will make things work a little bit easier. So thin or thick, however you want to approach it. You can also decide to simply just make them with texture. So what I would do is I would put a really, really light line over here, and then you could just kind of just make a couple little lines and a couple little dashed lines that look you just saw I just did over there. So again, for like eyebrows do a lot to sort of describe the form in the face. You could do them a variety of different ways, but again, I would try to kind of give them sort of echoing the top lid sort of shape, and then you could do them by filling them in. You can actually just make a couple little light lines like this, especially if you have a really fine-tooth pen. You can really just make them a line, make it just a little bit thicker on the front side, or you could go ahead and make that one little shape that goes beyond it and then kind of sculpt them and make them a little bit thicker or thinner. I know at one point, maybe 10 years ago, everybody wanted the thinnest eyebrows as possible, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted the thickest ones as well. So when you work on your actual faces, again, I think the best thing to do with our practice faces here is try it out a bunch of different ways. But first you want to kind of think, you don't want to slap them in the middle of the forehead. You want to kind of think about the size of the eye, about that much space should be there before you make your eyebrow. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of echo this shape over here. And then again, it's a personal choice on what you want to make them look like. You could simply work with a shape like what I'm doing right now. And again, that inside part, the part that's closer to the center of the head, would have to be the part that's a little bit thicker. And also, again, with the one that's directly looking at you, you really want to kind of spend a little time to try to make sure that both of them are pretty symmetrical. Nobody's exactly perfectly symmetrical, and even if you look at mine, probably made my second one a little bit too low. But I'm going to go through over here and just make my little adjustment for that. Now, with the eyebrows for the 3/4 pose, you also want to think with the eyebrows of the 3/4 pose, if this eye was bigger and this one's smaller, well, this eyebrow would be bigger and that one's going to be smaller too. So again, I would look to kind of echo what I see on that side as far as my eyelid, and I would just kind of repeat that and then play around with doubling up those lines. And again, you can make them sort of sculpted and really shape them up. Some of you might have a lot of experience drawing on eyebrows or using an eyebrow pencil, so you're probably going to draw them a little bit better than I do. But again, keeping the idea that the one on the short side of our face is going to be a little bit smaller than the one obviously on the long side. For ones on the side over here, again, we want to find about that same height away from them. And in this case, I'm just going to make these little sort of little lines over here to make it look a little bit more, in this case, bushier. You can even argue that they look a little bit more masculine that way. I'll kind of zoom in on that for you guys a little bit so you can see kind of dealt with them 3 different ways. You can always kind of put the eyebrows on fleek a little bit and just kind of sculpt them up a little bit. All right, but eyebrows are an important element to add to every single one of your pictures. And again, you know, those aren't that complicated to do, but you do want to make sure that you add them. So that would be the first element of hair that I would add. And again, they should be relatively easy to add. Okay. Now the bigger issue is hair and adding hair. The one thing I would tell you about hair is you don't want to get in the habit of drawing every last hair on the head. We don't want to start drawing hair by just, you know, kind of just adding lines. We want to think about the overall shape of the hair, and we want to think about the texture of it. So, you know what, again, I can't demo every kind of hairstyle, but I'm going to try to do a couple different ways over here to try to give you an idea of which way you could do them. First one I'm going to play around with, I almost started playing around with, is this updo, just sort of like long straight hair that's kind of put up in a bun. First thing we want to decide though is where is the hairline going to be? And again, when you look at the top of the head, okay, you want to think that the hairline should be a little bit down from the top. No one should be starting the hair all the way up here. You want to make sure that you have a forehead, and part of this bald head that we've drawn, a lot of that is going to get covered up in hair. So for the first part over here, I want to kind of lightly just place in where I want my hairline to be. And again, I'm going to draw that really, really light to kind of give me an idea of what will get overlapped on the head. So a lot of this other part of the skull, which I originally drawn, is going to get covered up. Now you see I've kind of come up with the silhouette of what this hairstyle is going to look like. You know, you want to try to get in the habit of, and I see with a lot of your drawings, a lot of you guys are drawing a really, really heavy or really, really dark. And what I want you to get in the mode of, especially with this, is drawing lighter. When we start doing the full fashion figure and drawing clothes on top of it, we're going to draw a body, and then we're going to draw clothing on top of the body. And, you know, with that being the process, it's probably easier to draw it a little bit lighter than really, really heavy, because you're going to find yourself erasing a lot. So the first thing I did with this updo is I wanted to kind of loose and sort of big, you know, sort of hair with big body. So I've kind of worked with like what the silhouette of that hair is going to look like. Now that I have that, now what I want to do is just, I want to put a few little lines into this to kind of create a little bit of the sense of like, okay, this is for the most part straight hair that's being pulled back. Now, when you have the hair on your actual character, and it's, let's just say we're going for straight hair, you're going to see more marks like these near the hairline and where the hair gets pulled together. So like in this case, that I want to make these lines to show this hair is getting pulled back. And then up here by the bun, I kind of want to make some lines here to kind of tell you that the hair is getting sort of all turned and pushed up into that one piece. So where you see hair getting pulled into like a ponytail or a braid or things like that, you're going to notice those areas can become a little bit darker. Where you see like your hairline, you're going to want a few marks to kind of give you a sense of which direction the hair is flowing. And again, it's going to kind of curve around to that shape. You're going to have a lot of the same things happening here on the sides. And again, less is more. Don't try to draw every last hair here, but kind of think that near the hairline, it's kind of convenient to have some of those lines. And here on the back end of it, where we're sort of at the edge of the hair, it's kind of good to have a little bit of darkness and texture that kind of wraps around that. So what I'm doing right now is sort of trying to create this sense that she has sort of long straight hair. That hair has been pulled up into a bun, and it's kind of a loose bun where her hair is still kind of full and sort of puffed out. It's not like a very hard slick one. And again, what I'm doing over here is I'm trying to make the marks go in the same direction as the hair is flowing. So, you know, for whatever particular style you go for, you want to kind of think about, okay, how is the hair going? Now, we get up top to this bun, well, the hair's going in a little bun. So again, where the tension is, where that rubber band is or that hair tie is, that's going to be where I put the most marks. And since it's all going in different directions, well, I'll kind of make them go in different directions, but still falling into this sort of circular pattern. At the top of that one, I'll add a little bit more. And if you want to add some loose flyaways, or add a couple that are just kind of, not quite all the way in, that's fine too. So one of the things I want you to get is first establish a hairline. Realize that part of the head is going to get covered up by the hair. Try to make your marks in the same direction that the hair is flowing. And we'll try it a little bit differently over here. This one we'll try to do, I guess we'll try to do a bun, but we're going to do it a little bit more slick, a little bit more tighter to the head. So if we are going to do hair that's really sort of patted down over here, once again I kind of want to establish where my forehead is going to be and where my hairline is going to be. And you can see the kind of shape that I'm using to go out to basically where the ear is going to be. So this is where the hair is going to start, and I like to put a light, really light line to sort of indicate that. Now I'm going to draw again the silhouette of the hair. Now even if this hair is slicked back and really tight to the scalp, I still want to add a little bit more thickness to the area, just so I can see where the hair is coming from. So I'm going to add this as my sort of little bit of extra hair. And since this is going to be a very slick and tight bun, I'm going to really just make my little top bun right over there. And for this one, you want to kind of think about how is this hair going to be pulled around the head? What is the flow of the hair? And for this one, I've decided I want to kind of do it as like a comb over that's going to go across the head. And since we'll do really like dark, shiny hair, we're going to start with some dark marks that go all the way across. And then at the back of the head, we're going to make that pretty dark. And then if you want to show off basically very shiny, very sort of slicked back hair, what you might want to do is grab that eraser and just erase a little bit of highlight. And if that highlight doesn't work for you, you can always kind of make the areas around it a little bit darker. So, add that little shine element. And this is one that I'm doing a lot of darker hairs. Now for the side of the head, where we have, sort of like, I guess, edges or the baby hairs, again, mattering on the look that you're trying to get, you may want to try to draw those things in. And when you do, you'll have a nice sharp pencil point. And again, fill in those marks in the same direction that the hair is flowing. So, I'm sort of working mine like this. You can obviously work the hair straight back. And I like to kind of make, if you've noticed, like this side, like the edge of the head here and the edge of the head here, with hair like this, I like to make those areas a little bit darker. And then again with the bun, this bun is going to be a little bit more structured bun, and I would again fill it up with marks that are going in the same direction. And the hair doesn't need to be this complicated, but I want to give you guys some options. You can obviously do much easier versions of these things. Same thing now for our side profile over here. I'll do a slightly different look. We'll make this sort of a masculine looking face. I'll make this a guy. And again, for the hairline, we want to establish what's forehead and where does the hair start, and what are the sides over here going to look like. So I've kind of established this part of the side of the head, what that's going to look like, where the hair is going to be. Remember, we have a lot of room between the eyebrows and the temples if you look at the side of the hair. Now, we could do this a bunch of different ways, or we could do this with sort of short curlier hair into a tight crop. We could do this with long wavy hair. In the normal class, I'd probably ask for requests. But what I'll do is I'm going to do a short sort of haircut where it's sort of short and spiky. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of draw a little bit of the profile. Like, again, what is the sort of silhouette of that hair look like? And since I'm going to have the top sort of long and a little bit, messy, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with some random marks. And where I want to start by the hairline is the hairline's probably where I want to make things just a little bit darker. So if you're adding hairs like this, I would add a little bit more right where the hairline starts, and then as you're working your way out, realize that to the top and those other areas, those areas are going to get a lot of light. So inside where it's shorter and it's coming off the head, a little bit more mark making, like what you see I'm doing right there. And as you work your way off the top, again, this is sort of a messier haircut, it could just have those little hairs falling around. And for this particular character, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have these hairs all going up. And then what I want to do is I'm going to try to do so it looks sort of like a fade going down. So there's a bunch of different ways you could do this, but I guess one of the ways you can go about it is simply just making a little fade with your pencil lead. And that would be making the top part of this a little bit darker, and as you're working your way down through the rest of the sort of hairline, it gets a little bit lighter and lighter. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of smudge that in a little bit with my fingertip. You can kind of get rid of the outline and kind of shape this up a little bit. And then if you want to make it look like it's been buzzed and stuff like that, near the top part of this, you can kind of dot it up a little bit and give it just a little sense of stubble. I'm not going to do that so much on the bottom over here because we're not going to see all that, but this will give you the feeling of like a sort of shaved, buzzed down, faded type of haircut. With that, we'll try a couple different things on this side. Let's just say we want to go with braids, or we want to go with just like a short crop haircut. Again, even with braids, we want to kind of consider where the hair is going to start and what your hairline is going to be. Everybody's hairline and forehead is a different shape. My whole objective here is just showing you that some of this hair is all going to get covered up over here. And then the same thing, we want to kind of lightly decide, at where, the silhouette of this hair is going to be. And realize that it's going to have a little bit of texture. It's going to have a little bit of sort of body that pops up off of the head a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of set up where those braids would be. And in this particular one, I'll have them all kind of pulled back into a bit of a, I guess, a bun or a long ponytail. So we're going to kind of lightly kind of try to draw where all those are out. And now that I have like an idea of my layout over here, then I can kind of go in and sort of go in with my little bit of mark making. And, again, with the long hair, I made my marks go in the direction that was going. With the slicked hair, I went in the same direction as the hair was going. With the close crop hair, I made my mark that way. For a braid, well, they're tightly braided. So I will kind of go in here with just those little tightly made little circles over here. And that way I will try to keep a little bit of space between them. I drew my original sort of rose here a little bit too far apart, but we can get the basic idea over there. So I'm kind of emulating the texture and the direction of this particular hair with the mark making that I'm making. And then the same thing, we can always add with a nice sharp point, you can always add edges or any other sort of little detail work that you want to add to it. And what I'll do is I'll continue to fill that out leaving just a little bit of the gaps in between. And then when we deal with like the braid, my feeling is generally is to do, you know, a couple really big ones that are in the front, and then you can kind of create the depth that there are multiple ones then behind it. So again, we would start with and for the ones that are out here, what I would do is I would pick one side, like in the underneath part, to make them just a little bit darker. And then like the next one that I do next to it, you can see my mark making. And I don't want this to get lost in the next one, so this sort of in between I'll just make just a little bit darker. And the thing about hair is sort of random. So don't get yourself in a situation where you want to try to make each curl too perfect. And I can continue on and on and on. This one's a little bit more involved because the amount of time that I'm spending for each one of them. But I think you guys get the feeling over there. And then I guess for maybe just something a little bit different, let's just do sort of just curly and puffed out for this one. So I'm gonna again try to establish a little bit of a hairline, decide where that hairline is going to be, and then in this case I'm going to go old school with a little flat top fade. And have the top have just a little bit of loose curls. Now I'm going to make some of my little sort of curlicue kind of shapes with my pencil. The key to this is don't make them too even or too perfect. And then I just kind of fill in. And with the little circles that you're making, try not to do it, you know, even though I'm filling in the area pretty dark, try not to do it where you're making it just look like big curls like that. That kind of defeats the purpose. Try to think about scale and how big you're drawing these figures. And then as you get sort of further down, we'll just do a slightly different fade. And in this case, what I'll do is I'll try to make my little circle shapes just a little smaller, and as I work my way down, try to give them a little bit more space in between each one and let them get just a little bit lighter. And by doing that, you can kind of create the idea that this is sort of a close cropped and faded out shorter haircut as you get around the edges. And you can see I'm just achieving that by just lightening up how dark I'm making those little circles and the curlicues. So, you know, it's been 20 minutes, but the hair is a little bit more involved. I've given you some starts on several different types of hairstyles. You obviously don't have to do them exactly like I'm doing, but the biggest thing is where to place them. Make sure that it's overlapping some part of the head that we drew originally. Try to keep your mark making going in the same direction as whatever hairstyle you're trying to do. Vary them. I'd like you to try to do several different hairstyles. Don't do the same one over and over again. You can always look to Google to look for some more examples. I'll pull some of these at home and I'll put them on the general section of our team. But any one of these will give you a good example. If you search draw fashion hair, it will give you a good example of what that hairstyle will look like. And again, what you see is a lot of the things I showed you, where it's darker near the roots, it's darker near the hairline. If you're going to do things like bangs or longer hair, you want to make those marks flow in the same direction that the hair is going, and have fun with it and try different things. Again, the biggest thing is to try to get the basic shapes of them down. So with that, I will stop this one